What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a new indie movie that I honestly had no idea what it was about before I went in to watch it. I've just seen the advertisements for this rolling in multiple times recently. Mubi is like heavily advertising this movie all over the internet, and I was unfamiliar with the cast. I didn't know much about everybody involved, but just reading the brief plot description, it seemed like a slice of life indie romance with a little bit of comedy sprinkled in, something that's very much up my alley. And the movie I'm going to be telling you about today is Matt and Mara. Matt and Mara is directed by Kazik Radwanski. Mara, a young creative writing professor, is struggling with problems in her marriage to an experimental musician. One day, Matt, a charismatic, free-spirited author from her past, wanders onto her university campus. Bonded by their shared interests, the two gradually become closer. When Mara's husband unexpectedly cancels plans to drive her to an out-of-town conference, Matt accompanies Mara on the trip instead. Along the way, the tension surrounding their undefined relationship slowly grows. So, like I said, this sounds like something that's right up my alley. Slice of life, indie, romance, drama, comedy. And unfortunately, this movie did not work for me. And if there's one word I would use to describe this film, it's disjointed. I really like what it's trying to go for, and it's very much in the vein of like almost like Jim Jarmusch, someone trying to capture very much like slice of life relationship moments. But the problem I have with this movie is the characters are so incredibly underdeveloped, and they're honestly kind of miserable humans. So it's really hard to watch this movie and root for either one of them just because of how bland they both are as far as like personality traits go. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it today. At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to Mara, played by Deragh Campbell, who is a college professor. We see her getting ready to go teach one of her classes, and Matt walks in, played by Matt Johnson, and the two of them, apparently they were very close friends growing up, and Mara hasn't seen Matt in a very long time, and the two of them strike up a conversation, and he convinces her to go get coffee, and we see immediately that the two of them have a lot of chemistry, but Matt is incredibly full of himself. You can see that like just the way he talks and kind of commands a room, whereas Mara seems a little bit more to herself and reserved. And the two of them spend some time together, and then Mara goes back home, and we're introduced to her current partner, who is an experimental musician, and we find out early on that Mara is not really into music and not all that interested in music in general, but she genuinely seems to love her partner, and the two of them have a child together. And this conference comes up as the plot description states, and he is not able to attend, so Matt agrees to go to the conference with her. And the entirety of the film is watching the relationship between these two estranged friends, who there's clearly something more going on under the surface in their relationship, but something has gotten in the way of the two of them being together. So like I said, I was really disappointed in this movie, but I'll talk about some of the positives. For starters, I really liked the way this was shot. It very much feels like a slice of life indie drama. There's a lot of attention to detail and capturing setting, and I really liked the use of color grading in this movie. I feel like it captures a very specific mood and tone. There's a lot of moments where I feel like it's going for warm and inviting, and I think it nails it in those particular moments. And I think for obviously an indie movie that doesn't have a super large budget, visually the movie was very inviting, and that's something that I can appreciate. I also think the two lead actors do a very nice job with the material that they're given. As I said before, and I'll talk about it a little bit when I get into problems I have with the movie, I don't think these characters are very well fleshed out, but I think the performers do the best job possible bringing the characters to life with what they have to work with here. And that's something else I liked. There were a lot of moments that I found myself very engaged in appreciating what the filmmaker was going for and the drama that was trying to be conveyed, or some of the more comedic moments. And I think the moments that work because of the performances. But the big problem I have with this is the characters feel incredibly hollow and underdeveloped. Matt's character, to me, he seems like one of those people that you meet that can light up a room, that everyone around him, like, they enjoy being around him. They find him very charming and charismatic, but he's also very full of himself, and he's this author who clearly thinks that he's the greatest thing in the world. And it seems like his ego is probably what was getting in the way of him and Mara's relationship relationship working out. But aside from that, we get like one other plot detail about him, which is that his dad is sick. And I feel like when that's introduced and how they try to use it as a plot point, they're almost more reliant on that carrying the emotional weight of how you feel about this particular character than they are developing the character as a person, like having his distinct character traits define him for how you're going to feel about him as the movie goes on. And I just wasn't a huge fan of that decision. I also just didn't really like Mara's character all that much, for starters. And I get all people are different, but the moment there was that really large conversation about her not liking music, I'm just like, what person doesn't like music? Like, what individual does not like, even if you don't have a favorite artist, like what individual just doesn't like hearing music? I just find that there's nothing in my brain. Like, I'm someone who loves art so much, whether that's music, movies, paintings, books, whatever that might be, and I can't fathom a person not enjoying music. It's just really, so when that line came up, I just kind of rolled my eyes, like, these don't even feel like real people. And they're just like, I don't know, a lot of it feels like exaggerated caricatures of like the worst people that you could imagine. Like Matt's character especially, very inflated ego, just kind of insufferable for the most part. So even when they tried to show moments where he was more vulnerable, I just didn't care all that much. I also feel like the way this movie is edited, it very harshly cuts in between moments in these characters' lives. And because it's a relatively short time span, it's like really difficult to kind of set your footing in a particular moment and expect the emotional resonance that they're trying to convey carry from point to point. I just found myself kind of tuning in and out whenever they would cut from one point in time to the next point in time. And I think the director thought that that was going to work, but because this has such an incredibly short runtime, I think it's like an hour and 20 minutes, it just all really kind of falls short of where I think the finish line for the director was as far as getting you engaged and to appreciate the movie. And I don't have much else to say other than like there are a ton of slice of life movies that are way better than this. I just found it to be very underwhelming. It's by no means the worst thing in the world, but I probably won't remember much about this in a week. So if you've seen Matt and Mara, did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was incredibly underwhelming, which is disappointing because it had a lot of potential. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.